Tell me about captaining. I think you said that 1994 was a very successful year for Warwickshire, but one of your worst, or at least enjoyable. And partly that was because of Brian Lara, essentially. You found it difficult to captain him. You know, was there a style of player that you found easier to captain, got more enjoyment out of? What was it like to captain someone like
Brian arrived at Edgbaston and his agent told him I didn't want him there because his name had come up at cricket committee months and months before when we were discussing an overseas player, but cricket committee decided to go for an all-rounder, not a batsman. So it wasn't anything against, Brian Lara. I think we had said if we go for a batsman, we might get David Boone because he was half the price. But we decided no batsman, we'll go for an all-rounder, and we signed Manoj Prabhakar. He got injured and Mike Smith was in the West Indies. Lara made 375. I got a phone call in Australia going, we've signed Brian Lara. And I was like, great. Oh, well, great. Okay. Move on. Might have to bowl a bit more, but, I was very happy that we signed him and very happy when he came to the club. And after about one day, I said, Brian, do you want to come round to my house and we get to know each other a bit, have a bit of a chat, have a glass of wine? And he said, no, thank you. And I thought, oh, that's a bit odd. If John Barclay asked me round when I got signed by Sussex to, have a chat and get to know him, you'd have gone, course captain. So, it wasn't, and then I found Brian on the field was very, undermining my field placements or why is he doing this and that? And, so there wasn't a good, and being a man who believes in energy, there wasn't a good energy between me and Brian. Every day in the changing room, every day was a battle to get him to play. He was complaining he had a sore knee, but he was still okay to go and play golf after a day's play. He'd play a day's cricket and he'd go and play golf with Dennis Amos, play 9 holes at Edgbaston. And the next day he's going, my knee's sore. And it's sort of the ligament that he's playing golf right-handed, and the twist of it, that ligament comes in for a bit of jib. But, he was very tough to captain. And then he told me to F off on the field about 7 times at Northampton. And I said, Brian, you're turning into a prima donna. And then the club got in touch with me and said, Brian's very unhappy with you. You need to apologize for calling him a prima donna. And I've gone, well, he did tell me to F off 7 times first. Is he going to apologize for that? Or and very quickly I realized, Brian Lara's bigger than Dermot Reeve at the club at the minute at Edgbaston. If I don't do this, I'll be in the second team with Tim Munton captaining.
But the team are watching, right? So how do you balance that up? You're a star player in your team, you're the captain, successful one, and your team, that.
Yeah, we had a chat about it, and Gladstone said, the boys said, look, if he goes too far, don't worry, we'll pull him in line. And at Northampton, he had got hit by Kirtley, but he made 100. But after we had this bust up on the field, well, I was just telling him to calm down because he was having a go at an umpire. He left the field. He said, my knee's sore, and he left the field. And we only had 10 men for a bit and got the 12th man on. And we came off at tea, and Brian was asleep under a table in the changing room, and I asked what the score was. What's the score? And Toosey gave him an absolute mouthful.
Did he?
Yeah. You want to know the score? Get up and look at the scoreboard.
So you retained the backing of the team. The team could see the position you were in.
Yeah, but to be honest, they didn't have to deal with it.
No.
If I'm wanting to have a team meeting an hour and a half before the match starts, I can't because Brian's not there. And then he turns up half an hour. He was allowed to. Woolmer and Amos said, okay, Brian, yes, you can turn up half an hour after everyone else. So I didn't like that, but...
Would you handle it differently now? Is there anything like...
Yeah, I'd absolutely try and when he said he didn't want to pop round to my house,
Yeah.
you know, I should have thought, right, is there an underlying issue here? And then found out, if I'd found out his agent had told him, I could have explained it. But it was, you know, we had this superstar just scoring hundreds after hundreds, just peeling them off. We're winning matches. The dressing room's still happy and bubbly and sort of going along.
Yeah, it's not like you're losing.
It was just really this energy between me and Brian. I'd move him in the field. Come on, Brian, move. He'd walk really slowly, you know, or I'd try and chivvy him along. Come on, Brian, you know, and it was like he deliberately. So there was a, you know, he did say to me, I told him Tim Munton was a captain's dream because he always wants to bowl, you know, and he's like, he's a bad captain's dream, you know. So, oh, and you're telling me I'm a bad captain. So there was, and then at Lord's, I bowled him. Middlesex are chasing, but they've decided to, Keith Brown and Weeks have decided, they've had a chat, they decided, no, we've lost 4 wickets, we're just going to block out now. I saw them have a chat. So I went to Brownie and I said, what if I bring on Brian Lara for a couple of overs of leggies, you know, with no one out there. But, you know, I actually knew Brian can bowl them quite well. We might get him out. But I was prepared to give away sort of 20 runs to get Middlesex chasing again. And no batsman likes to turn down easy runs. So Brownie had a chat with Weeksy. And Brownie said to me, all right, okay. So I said, Brian, come have a bowl. So Brian's come on. Yeah, he's gone, I want to put a man there. I said, no. So he bowled it a bit short, got pulled for there. I want a man here. I go, no, because I didn't mind him going. The idea was, yeah, you can go for 16 in the over.
Yeah.
And he once again left the field at the end of the over, or the 2 overs. He stormed off, and Bob Woolmer had to sort of try and calm him down. And in the end, we got Middlesex 9 down and had an over at Angus Fraser to win the game. So the tactics worked. You know, they continued to chase and take more risks. And Brian hadn't, you know, his cricket brain, he hadn't worked out that's what I was.
Yeah.
Couldn't you have told him?
Could I have?
Yeah.
Yeah, probably, but there isn't always a time. I just thought he does bowl them pretty well. He had a deep backward, just didn't give him a deep mid-wicket.
How much of, like, you know, we talked about the tactical stuff and improvisation and everything, but how much of your captaincy is man management compared to tactics and thinking cricket through then?
I just sort of had a philosophy. You play your best when you relax, you're confident, you enjoy it. I think I told that to Michael Vaughan because I heard bring it out a couple of times in interviews. But, you know, and the game happens 1 ball at a time. Guys, I don't care whether we win or lose. I really don't. That just takes care of itself. You know, just as long as you can look in the mirror at the end of the day and go, I know I've been a good bloke and I've done my best today. If you can do that, that's all I'm asking. Because, you know, when it all comes down to end up winning and losing, and there's a saying I've got, which is, live in the past, you're depressed. Live in the future, you're stressed. Live in the moment, you're blessed. So getting players to understand what, it just happens 1 ball at a time. All you can do is your best. Every single ball, you should be just doing your best. If you do that, I'm a happy captain, whether we've won or lost. It was only Paul Smith that I motivated through intimidation. Everybody else I motivated with encouragement. But Paul, I would tell him he wasn't very good at times, or I'd throw the ball at his feet, or because he bowled better when he was angry. So I had to get him. Sometimes I'd get him worked up and angry, and he'd run in and bowl better.
It sounds like Brendan McCullum, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And Brendan McCullum isn't the first coach to try and give his players confidence.